the stock market. So will there be a fluctuation in the stock market? It could be that combination because we're with the nodes where we're releasing something, yet we're gaining something. This is G. We are in the month of June. And this is the week of June 2nd and the following 7 days. So you see we've got Jupiter. So keep these planets in mind. There's going to be a backstory as usual that we'll talk about, and then we'll go over some of the details. We got Mars. Mercury and Venus are big this week with Jupiter. And Neptune is also a story. But, of course, the North and the South Node are going to be part of this story as well. We got to talk our way through them because we want to understand the bigger picture. Give you a little focus in on Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Neptune's already been here. Saturn got here. And they're conjunct. Saturn is structures, order, regulations, and rules. Organizing. Saturn builds for the long term. And the U.S. has been coordinating strikes, like their little secret war, whatever you want to call it, in Yemen with the Houthis. Houthis are messing with the shipping, you're messing with the money, and that's a problem, right, when you mess with the money. So they've been coordinating strikes, and that's when Saturn was in Pisces. But now Saturn is in Aries, but it's conjunct Neptune. So government is definitely Neptune. Corporations and business is definitely Saturn. So they're working together here. Neptune does like peace. It does want serenity. It wants unity. It says, can't we just find a way to make this work? Can't we just get along? So we've got rules, order, and structure combined with the Navy because we've got Mars, Aries energy with Neptune, which is what's happening there. You've got, I mean, I'm not a military person, but you've got drone warfare going on, coming up off of the ships that are in the area. So with Saturn, it brings more rules and more structure. So hopefully things tone down because some of the trade stuff by now in this chart and the previous charts I've done for May looks like we, definitely had a Ukraine deal signed with the United States and the U.S., regardless of what you hear in the reporting, because the mainstream media, you know how that works, right? The United States finally put in a call to China and said, I think we should talk now. China playing the very strong-faced mom and dad and saying, then you need to show your sincerity. We need to know that you're actually serious about a negotiation. And even as I'm recording this and I'm in the end of April, empty ports. Not that they are, but there's definitely a decrease in ships, and the ships that are coming are definitely 20 to 30% less cargo than normal. So 20 to 30% less ships, and then the ships that come are 20 to 30% less cargo because the United States doesn't really make anything. That's the truth, okay? So with that said, that's part of the backstory. The other part of the backstory for this week is the nodes. So that's going to be super important because they're at 23 degrees, and the 23 degrees tells us to expect disruptions and maybe shocks and surprises. We're releasing something that had to do with the past, and our superpower, the Virgo stuff, our daily routines, our health habits, the minutia, the details, very meticulous, very practical, logical, rational, service industry, think nurses. Now, the 23 degrees is also an eclipse point. We already had this eclipse, but eclipses stay active. This was the eclipse from March 14th in 2025. And this particular eclipse will stay active for 3 years, which means anytime something triggers that 23 degrees in Virgo and in Pisces, it's going to be more pronounced in our lives, especially if you've got a chart where you've got something that's conjunct that 23 degree mark at both ends, Virgo and Pisces. So you give it like 21 to 25 degrees, right? So it's about a 3-year timeline. There's an activation, something gets triggered. And sometimes that just answers questions about our health, about our sleep, about our dreams, our fantasies, my hope for the future. Dreams about the future because it's the North Node in Pisces. Our hope and our dreams about the institutional energy and what is our government going to do, and the idea of our life for those who are in the States, and the connection that we have, the unity, the connection that we have to everybody around the world. They say that when the United States has a sneeze, when the United States sneezes, the rest of the world has a cough, right? So it's kind of understanding the bigger picture. All right, so it's Venus and Jupiter. I've got here from June 2nd to June 5th. We have Venus and Jupiter in direct conversation with each other. They are in a sextile. Okay, so we're going to go on over to here and talk about our values and our money. Venus in everybody's chart. You either have Venus as your benefic or Jupiter as your great benefic. So the two benefics of the zodiac are in conversations from the 2nd to the 5th, because they are matching the degrees. Venus is in feisty Aries, my values. And so she starts off the week at the money degree. At the money degree. Isis is going to move and sit right next to Uranus. Isis will reach 26 degrees. She'll be conjunct Elgo, and that will be by the end of the week. So Elgo normally creates a little bit of havoc and definitely some disruptions. It can be some dark energy when we talk about desires, but money for sure. Okay, money. And Isis tends to want to rebuild something and bring something back to life. But again, these are all in Taurus. So money, we think farming, we think food, we think creature comforts, we think of the planet and the earth, and the technology, the advancements in technology, and how it's actually technology, the tech that's been brought forward, whether it's, we think of using the solar to get energy, different ways, wind and solar, just to name two, battery storage, capturing that solar energy to actually pull us away from the fossil fuels, to pull us away from pillaging and raping and abusing the earth. Taurus, right? So I am optimistic, but yet, shocks and surprises are on the table, because it's Uranus at 28, and Isis will be conjunct that by the end of the week. So what's Venus and Jupiter going to be talking about? Well, Jupiter sitting here in Gemini, so it's business. We think about all the tariff stuff and the trade, but business. Supply chain for sure. Here we are at the beginning of June, and in all likelihood, there is a slowdown. It takes like 2 weeks from a boat to get to here, and then it takes another 2 weeks for that to be unloaded and shipped to a major warehouse in the States. And then from there, it's distributed nationally. So you're talking 2 weeks, and 2 weeks is a month, right? So this June beginning looks like it can be rough, because Uranus supply chain is at 28 degrees, and that's public, the Cancer degree. So we'll see. June 5th to June 6th, we've got Venus entering Taurus, right? So which means that on the 4th, Venus is at a 29 degrees of Aries energy, a critical degree, okay? And usually that's, it's Venus and money, it's Venus and values. But take a good look at all this Aries energy. We've got Eris, angry, feminine Eris. We've got Chiron. They're both at 25. Venus at 26. That's to start the week. As Venus pulls away, remember I just described, she enters into Taurus, right? As Venus pulls away, because she can kind of be benevolent and harmonious, even though she's in feisty Aries, What my point is that when Venus pulls off of Chiron and Eris, the fact that Chiron and Eris are together, they're super feisty, very angry about wounds from the past. So it's the revolution energy for sure. Pluto is there too at 3 degrees, people gathering and communicating and globally networking and protesting globally. It's been beautiful to see and witness. So Venus is going to pull away. What did I have drawn up over here? Mars. I've got Mars with Eris and Chiron in a trine. Feisty, I'm going to fight you, Mars. Mars is in Leo. This trine is strong this entire week. Okay. So Mars adds fuel, adds fight to the revolutionary energies. So keep this in mind for these areas in your chart. Feisty, impatient. I'm ready to snap off. So if you know that you're on the edge, find something to do. Mars needs a physically challenging outlet. Usually something it can do alone, especially if it's extra feisty, right? It's like go and hit the bags, go run around the block, go dig some damn holes, go do what you got to do to get all that fight out of you until your ass is worn out. At the same time, June 5th, Jupiter goes to 29 degrees. Critical degree, usually the billionaire degree, right? Yeah, it's in Gemini. Financing, business, money. But remember, this is also judges and education, right? Judges and education. I know there's a big deal right now, I think, while I'm recording, where I don't know enough about it, but the folks in Congress, Gemini, writing bills, doing some legislating to get a law passed where when it comes to education, they can use those educational vouchers that are meant for public schools, that they're writing a bill to make it possible so that students, or I should say parents who send their students to private schools, can also use the vouchers. Now, remember, Venus then goes like on the 5th and the 6th. Venus is now in Taurus, in money, in Earth. Venus is strong here. Venus definitely wants peace. She's not as feisty anymore. Hopefully, there's been something resolved where Venus gets what she wants, where there is some harmony and some equality. It's down to earth energy, very earthy energy. So, Venus in Taurus, June 5th, June 6th. At the same time, Mercury will be conjunct Jupiter at 29 degrees. Same time. So again, that makes me think TikTok. It's conjunct Jupiter. There might be an investor because this is in Gemini at 29 degrees. If not, there can be judgments with judges. There can be a Supreme Court thing, a Supreme Court opinion that comes out, or a Supreme Court judgment that comes out. But again, Mercury, social media, news, information, sharing, learning, education, writing, people in Congress, when we have Mercury conjunct Jupiter, people in Congress, for sure. Neptune on the 9th and Jupiter on the 9th. On the same day, you heard me right. This takes us to Monday. Neptune goes to 2 degrees of Aries, the money degree, my values. Neptune, institutional energy. What we're going to put our money towards, the weaponry, right? Weapons contracts, the Navy, because it's Neptune on the water, but government and institutional energy, okay? And, Aries energy is, again, when I talk about Mars, it's Aries. It's bodies, it's the head, it's feistiness, it's I'm very impatient, but Neptune tends to mellow things out. It tends to say, okay, we don't really want to go to war over this, do we? Hopefully the Jupiter and the Venus can maybe possibly bring us, some form of protection and good, because they're, again, the two benefics of the zodiac. Getting back to the ninth and Neptune and Jupiter now. So Neptune at the 2 degrees, we talked about it, but what about Jupiter on the ninth? Remember, this is on the same day, right? The ninth. Jupiter ends up being at 0 degrees of Cancer. So there's strong energy with emotions and feelings and the public. I have it right here. The day before, Mercury was actually in the sign of Cancer. Mercury got there before Jupiter did, just the day before. So when Mercury merges into Cancer energy, my mind and what I'm thinking about, family and home, and who am I talking to? Family, people that I vibe with. It's ancestry, talking about the past. It's women. It's nurturing. It's the mother womb, talking about mom. Okay. Mercury, siblings, coworkers, neighbors, peers. This can also be the markets, literally the housing market. And we saw how Mercury was a big deal or Venus was talking to Jupiter, but then Mercury was conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, real estate, but also the stock market. The stock market. So will there be a fluctuation in the stock market? I think so, because Jupiter, expansive Jupiter, leaving business, leaving the markets, where it was able to kind of just fluff them up. Now it gets into the emotional moon energy, the emotional moon, very sensitive. And Jupiter and the moon, Jupiter's actually is exalted in Cancer energy, exalted. It means it's super powerful. So Jupiter's known to be someone who can exaggerate. But again, if it's the greater benefic in your chart, this might be beneficial. It can express that way for you. But no doubt it will be an increase of emotions. So that becomes a huge focus with Mercury conjunct Jupiter. I think judges and news will be a big deal, because Jupiter is definitely judges and judgments. It's also foreigners, immigration. It's been a big, big deal here in the States. People being shipped off, but maybe, yeah, I would love to say there's going to be better news, but we have an administration that is hell-bent on, their stuff. And yeah, I don't want to even go into it, but hopefully Jupiter and Cancer can bring us some unity and some goodness, and provide that protective blanket from the extreme chaos. And we will pick this back up again in the next video. All right. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it helped. And I will see you in the next one. You take care. Bye-bye.